What is up, FBG fam? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another Genshin Impact video. And oh boy, do I have a good one for you today. So in my last video, there was a comment in the comment section asking if I can go over some of the Raiden Shogun's weaknesses because all I've been talking about lately is her strengths. And I found this comment to be very intriguing. By the way, that does let you guys know that I do read all the comments. Even if it's like hours after the video's uploaded, I still read the comments. I still take a look at them. So even if it's hours afterwards, make sure you comment. I will definitely read it and take a look at it. So I found this question to be very intriguing and interesting, and I wanted to go ahead and actually do a video on it. So shouts out to you who asked me that question. And before you guys hit the dislike button because I'm talking about Baal's weaknesses or the Raiden Shogun's weaknesses, just take a look at my channel. If you're new here, take a look at my channel. That should answer your question. I'm a massive fan of the Raiden Shogun. I think she's going to be an incredible character, one of the best characters in the game. And I think she has more pros, more strengths than she does weaknesses. Because I'll be quite honest with you, I was trying to do my research. I was really looking into it, and I was having a very hard time trying to find some weaknesses for her, but she definitely does have some. There's no doubt about that, and I wanted to highlight those and talk about them because each Genshin Impact character in the game has some weaknesses, and I think to get a full scope of a character, to understand them fully, you need to understand their strengths, but you need to also understand their weaknesses, where they're really good at and where they're not so good at, and that gives you a better understanding of how to play the character, how to utilize them properly, and where they fit in team comps. So with that being said, let's go ahead and jump straight into it. Now, some things that I do mention may not inherently be a weakness per se, but it is something that is a bit of a downside. Others are just going to be glaring weaknesses. So let's jump straight into it. So I am on Honey Hunter World. Massive shout out to Honey Hunter World. They do a fantastic job. Also, if you want information on the Raiden Shogun, you can check out Honey Hunter World. A link to their website will be in the description down below, or you can join my Discord. A link will be in the description down below. We have all the information about the Raiden Shogun there. Also, I won't be showing any information about the Raiden Shogun in terms of her stats or numbers, just because I'm waiting for the official information from miHoYo to be released by themselves, and then I will go ahead and go into detail about it when that officially happens. Also, to not spoil anybody that does not want to be spoiled just yet. So we're going to be taking a look at other character stats and comparing them to the Raiden Shogun. And first thing I did want to mention that I think is a bit of a weakness with the Raiden Shogun within her basic attack. So if you take a look at her basic attack stats in terms of, you know, let's say level 10, for example, they are, I would say, on the weaker side comparatively. And I'm comparing it to other polearm users in the game. If we take a look at other polearm users in the game, her stats are relatively low. Compared to Zhongli, hers is a little bit higher than Zhongli's. Compared to Hu Tao, hers is a little bit higher than Hu Tao's. But compared to the other four, and obviously she's much lower than Xiao's. Xiao's is the highest. But if we take a look at the other polearm users, especially the 4 stars like Xiangling, hers is lower. Hers is lower than Xiangling's, and hers is lower than Rosaria's as well. So that right there tells you that her basic attacks without her ult are just not that strong, which means that if you're not utilizing her ult, then the attacks that you're going to be doing are not going to be doing that much damage. Her white numbers are going to be very minimal, and so that's an inherent weakness for the Raiden Shogun, in the sense that if you're trying to just have her out on the field the whole time when her ult's not up, then she's not going to be doing a whole lot for you. She's just going to be really sitting there, just doing some basic attacks, waiting for her ult to come online, for her to be really meaningful in the damage department. So that I noticed was just her numbers when it comes to the basic attacks are just not that great. They're lower than Rosaria's, they're lower than Xiangling's, and of course, let me go ahead and mention that this is from a fan-made website. So when she officially releases, I mean, those stats could change, right? I'm just basing it off of what we have right now to go off of. And right now, they're lower than Rosaria's and Xiangling's. They're a little bit higher than Zhongli's. They're higher than Hu Tao's, and then lower than Xiao's. So that is the first thing that I noticed. The second thing that I noticed was within her ult. Her ult that's where her gameplay is all centered around. That's where you're going to be doing the most damage. That is where she's going to shine the most, is within her ult. And you're definitely going to want to have that up as much as possible when you have the Raiden Shogun out. The only problem is that she has a pretty significant cooldown between her uptime and her downtime for her ult. It's pretty significant. The energy recharge it's not a problem. It's a non-issue for me. In terms of her energy cost, excuse me, her energy cost is a non-issue. It's something that you're going to be able to get without a problem. It's the uptime and the downtime in her ult that might be a slight hindrance. It's a slight weakness in my opinion. So if we take a look at Xiao's, whose ult, in terms of how you use Xiao, is very similar to the Raiden Shogun and how you're going to use her. Xiao, you really want to be ulting as much as possible. That's where he gets the most damage. You get the most benefit out of him. And his duration is 15 seconds with a cooldown of 18 seconds. That is considerably better. And I mean considerably better than the Raiden Shoguns. The only difference is that Xiao has issues getting to his energy cost of 70 if you don't build a team around it properly, where Raiden Shogun won't. But you're going to be waiting a lot longer to be able to actually pop the ult. You'll have the energy ready to pop it, but the cooldown will still be there. So you have to just be mindful of that. Also, another character that you can kind of compare it to is Hu Tao within her elemental skill, because Hu Tao's, when you pop her elemental skill, that's when she's doing the most damage. That's where she's the most beneficial, and that's where she's shining the most. And you're going to want to have that pop as often as possible. She has a duration of 9 seconds with a cooldown of 16 seconds. So it's longer than Xiao's, but it's still shorter than the Raiden Shogun's ult. And I noticed with Hu Tao, and I've used Hu Tao, she's my main right now, and I have her, if you guys are unaware, I have her C6 triple crown. Hu Tao's my girl. I use her all the time, and I've noticed that when you pop her elemental skill, once it's on cooldown, you just go through your normal rotations, and then when you come back to Hu Tao, it's ready to go. And so it's not really an issue as well. With the Raiden Shogun, you might have to prolong it a little bit longer. You might have to be doing some extra stuff, attacking with maybe more of your main DPS. So for example, if you have Eula on the team, do some more Eula stuff before going into the Raiden Shogun, because you may still be on cooldown for that ult. So that might be a bit of a weakness for her as well. So that's something to take into consideration, and that is something to think about for the Raiden Shogun, and you know, some of the downsides that she might have. Other than that, to be quite honest with you, if I'm being as unbiased as possible, she doesn't really have, at least from what I can see, in my opinion, she really doesn't have any other weaknesses. Like, I was looking at her elemental skill, and I was comparing it to how other people's skills would work that are very similar. So for example, like Xingqiu's ult with the swords, like the swords do more damage than the Raiden Shogun's elemental skill with the coordinated attacks. That is true, but the elemental skill, it literally has a 100% uptime on it. So to me, that wasn't a glaring weakness. It's also weaker than Oz with Fischl, but once again, it has a 100% uptime. So I just didn't see that as a weakness, because it's something that you can have going all the time, constantly. Alright guys, really quickly, I have to do a fast interruption. So I was literally uploading this video, I was editing and uploading it, and while I was uploading it, there was something that came through the Discord that actually, funny enough, fell along the lines of the theme of this video, and that is some information in regards to the Raiden Shogun's coordinated attacks from her elemental skill. Apparently, it will not trigger when attacking shielded enemies. Now, take this with a grain of salt, this is subject to change, but I found it funny that that is kind of along the lines of this whole theme of this video about her weaknesses, and I think that is a bit of a weakness. I don't know if it's like a weakness per se, but I would have to say that it falls along those lines, and they go on to say that dealing damage to shields will not trigger the coordinated attacks. Dealing damage to HP directly will trigger the attack. So if the enemy has a shield, or if the enemy has some type of shield, like the Abyss Mages, their shields, or the Abyss Heralds, their shields, the coordinated attacks, they will not work. They will not proc, apparently. I thought that was funny that that just came across while I was editing and uploading this video. I wanted to make sure to include this because I feel like that would be in one of the comments. So anyways, I don't know where I'm going to throw this, but let's get right back into it. I was looking at her passives. Her passives are fantastic, and they fit within her kit. I don't think they're a weakness as well. And then I was looking at her constellations. Now, this is the only thing that I can maybe think of, but once again, it's not, to me, a weakness because she's fantastic at C0, but she does get tremendously better with constellations, like not infinitely. Let me take that word back. I need to make sure I'm wording this properly. Not infinitely better, but she gets tremendously better. Is that the right word? I love that word, tremendously. I think I'm going to stick with that word. She does get tremendously better. She does, because the constellations are just nutty. By the way, on Honey Hunter World, they did fix the constellations, and they fixed her cooldown and her energy cost on Honey Hunter World as well. So it appears that it's accurate. It appears that the flip-flop is correct with C2 and C4. So her constellations are just nutty. Absolutely nutty. So outside of that, I really didn't see any other issues. She fits on every single team comp. She works with teams well. She's a great supporter. She's a great sub DPS. You can make her into a main DPS if you want to, but I just don't think that fits her role. Her elemental skill is fantastic with 100% uptime. Her elemental burst is gonna hit extremely hard. It just has that cooldown. So those are the weaknesses that I found. Those are the weaknesses that I found. Once again, not too many, but just a TLDR once again. Her basic attacks without the ult is not great at all. Worse than Xiangling's, worse than Rosaria's. And she has a long downtime when it comes to her ult. I would say pretty long downtime in between. The energy cost is not going to be the problem. It's just a cooldown. She has a bit of a cooldown on the ult. Outside of that, I think she's a fantastic character. If you're utilizing your rotations, once again, I don't know if the cooldown on the ult is inherently a weakness. It's just a downside. It's a hindrance. You just have to make sure you're doing your rotation. So, you know, you do her ult, it's on a cooldown now. Go into your other characters, elemental skill, elemental burst, elemental skill, elemental burst. By the time you rotate through your characters and you're doing your elemental skills and elemental burst, you'll probably be very close to the ult being back. And then you can pop your elemental skill, maybe do a few basic attacks, pop your ult, and then you're ready to go. So, anyways, guys, in the comments down below, if you've seen the Raiden Shogun's kit, if you have a good understanding of what it's doing, let me know what your opinions on her weaknesses is. Let me know your opinions on what you found, because I'm curious. Once again, I looked into it, and that's what I was able to find specifically, but I want to get your guys' opinion on what you think they are. And I'm happy to read all of those comments, and thank you guys so much for all the support. I want to take the opportunity to once again say thank you for all the support. Thank you for everything you guys have doing. It's been incredible as of late, and I couldn't thank you guys more. So I appreciate it, and I will see you guys in the next one. I hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, very different, very intriguing. Anyways, I'm gonna get on out of here. Remember to stand out, be different, have fun, go further beyond in everything that you do. And until next time, my boys, until next time, it's your homie Cody GT, and I'm out. Bye, guys.